Welcome to Fix Your Focus, Let's Chat with Siedah, where we have weekly conversations centered around mental health, self-empowerment, or relationships that provide growth, healing, and knowledge around the transitional periods that women go through in life. I'm your host, Siedah Spencer Artis, a licensed marriage and family therapist and owner of Focus Therapy Clinic in Birmingham, Michigan. It is my mission to provide a place for women to listen, learn, and laugh while constantly evolving. I hope you enjoy listening to the show, and please remember, this show is not meant to be a substitute for working with a licensed mental health professional. You are listening to Fix Your Focus, Let's Chat Therapy with Siedah. Today, our topic is the beginning stages of motherhood, and our guest is Jessica Lattin. Jessica is a licensed professional counselor supervisor located in Shreveport, Louisiana. She is the owner of JL Counseling, LLC, a solo private practice with a focus in maternal mental health and domestic violence. She is the host of the Mental Health Enlightenment podcast, The Counselor's Complex, available on all podcast platforms. Jessica provides clinical supervision for therapists seeking licensure in the state of Louisiana. She obtained her master's degree in counseling and guidance from Louisiana Tech University, and she also earned a graduate certificate in dynamics of domestic and family violence. Jessica is a Louisiana State Ambassador for 2020 Mom and a North Louisiana Support Coordinator for Postpartum International, two organizations raising awareness for maternal mental health and prenatal mental illness. Jessica is a self-published author on her own guided self-esteem journal called Crowned in Confidence, and that is available on Amazon. In her downtime, she enjoys spending time with her family, visiting with friends, volunteering with various organizations, and participating in pageantry. Her motto is, "Persistence is the key to success," and her vision is to empower others and help them build the skills necessary to reach their fullest potential and to become their best self. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jessica.
Thank you. I'm excited. I've been anxious and excited all week long.
Well, thank you. So our topic today is the beginning stages of motherhood, and just discussing a little bit about how motherhood can affect our mental health while also looking at like the mindset shifts of being a woman and the personal growth that we go through in that process of pregnancy, or once you've had your child, and just those first beginning stages from infancy to 1 and sometimes even 2 till your child can walk and give you a inkling of what they're looking for. Can you tell me a little bit about like why that was your specialty, your chosen area of focus?
Well, actually, I have personal experience with perinatal loss. Me and my husband, we miscarried in 2017. And
Sorry.
then immediately after that, I got pregnant again because we were like, we're going to keep trying and see what happens. Because I actually have a 6-year-old son. So we already had one child and we were looking to have a little girl. So after the miscarriage, we immediately started and tried to have another baby. I got pregnant immediately after the recuperation time allotted for the miscarriage. And that was a very stressful pregnancy for me, on top of not fully allowing myself the time to grieve properly from the miscarriage. So I wound up having perinatal anxiety and depression throughout my second pregnancy with my daughter. So I did get my baby girl, but it came with a lot of stress. And so on top of all of that, we also had a couple of scares during my pregnancy with her. One was that she might have Down syndrome. Fortunately, that test came back negative and she's healthy and doesn't have any type of developmental issues. And then also I developed gestational diabetes, and that can contribute to depression in pregnancy. I don't think a lot of people know that. So I just had a lot going on in this pregnancy, and my daughter actually acts like what she put me through. But I still love her, and I'm so grateful. But that is really what sparked my interest in this topic, because it's not discussed. It's kind of a taboo subject. Nobody, like, mental health is taboo anyway, but maternal mental health, moms, we have to usually be so strong and take care of everything. And so a lot of times it goes unnoticed and undetected, and it's not screened properly within doctors' offices and things of that nature. So a lot of times women go on and they might realize later, oh, wow, I think I had postpartum depression, but it's years later, and it may have developed into actual major depression, or they just kind of worked through it on their own, but had a lot more struggles during that time period because they didn't get the proper help.
What does for a mother that doesn't know, right? But just feels like, this it feels like the weight of the world is sitting on me. What does that perinatal anxiety or depression look like? But especially the anxiety. Sometimes people are more able to pick up on feeling signs of depression, but they miss the anxiety.
Okay, so with the anxiety, you may experience irritability. Of course, just that feeling of general anxiety, just that excessive worry, but also avoiding certain things that maybe you used to do, but now you're just avoiding it. Then also, difficulty sleeping is another big one. And as a new mom, you're probably not going to get a lot of sleep anyway. So you might think that that's normal because you think, oh, well, I'm not supposed to get a lot of sleep anyway. But that could definitely be a sign. Also, loss of appetite or increase in appetite, because, we all kind of, depending on the person, we may try to soothe ourselves with food, or we lose our appetite. So those are just a couple of signs of the anxiety.
Okay. Um, what are some of the common barriers that you think that you see when you're dealing with the therapeutic relationship and getting moms to even realize, do I need therapy?
Okay, well, one of the biggest barriers that I've seen just in my practice is lack of support, social support, family support, even support from their spouse or significant other, or that child's other parent. So that's a big one, because a lot of moms, they may not have a babysitter or someone to watch their child when they come to therapy. Now, I do allow the moms to bring their babies, but sometimes they want that to be like just a personal me time. And I totally get that, because I like my me time too. Also financial. So if you think about it, it costs, I want to say, about $10,000 the first year of having a child. So on top of that,
Is that right? Oh my
yeah.
goodness. I'm glad I never did the research.
So on top of that, you're talking about paying for therapy. What? I can just read a book and try to help myself. So a lot of times that could be the mindset of a new mom, is that they have to spend so much money taking care of their child. And normally, as moms, our first instinct is to just put our kids first, and we put ourselves last.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I see a lot of moms in my practice who are coming in because they have forgotten what it looks like to be them,
Hmm.
and then you get to a stage where your kids, they don't need you to make the bottles and fix the snacks and, give you like that one-on-one, mommy, can you read me a story time, because they're teenagers, or for me, my youngest is 6 and she's like super self-sufficient. So, I have to check in sometimes with her. So when you think about that, and then they're coming to therapy, and it's like, well, man, I feel angry or I feel stressed because I don't know what it looks like to do this or get time to do that. And the question of, well, what do you do for you? That
Yeah.
seems like such a foreign question. So when I see moms, and I don't know if this is something that you do as well, but when I see moms who have younger children, and especially if it's their first child or they have stair step, I often say start scheduling time for yourself. Even if it's 30 minutes, put yourself on the calendar.
Yes.
Most definitely, if you have a support system, put yourself on the calendar, shoot your partner, shoot your spouse, email. That's why we have this amazing thing called technology, and let them know, hey, Sunday from 9 to 10, I am checking out and I am going, for brunch with my girls, or I'm going to get a massage or whatever. I know things are more difficult with, COVID right now, but I'm still encourage mothers, find that time or that space within your house to have alone time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We have to stop asking for permission to take care of ourselves. That should just be an automatic, you know. And I like when I had my daughter and I was like, oh, wow, I have two kids now. I had to make a decision like, am I going to just get sucked into only being a mom, or am I still going to maintain that balance? And that's going to be the difference of whether I am a healthy role model for my kids or not, So I had to make that decision, and I started telling my husband, hey, on this day, I'm going to be gone. And so I don't know what you have going on your schedule, but I'm not going to be here on Friday, or I'm going to go out here or whatever. And luckily I have a spouse that is very supportive, and we both work. And so we both understand that everybody needs their me time, so we work together. But I know everybody doesn't have that. Like you said, if you have a support system, that's great. But for those that don't have a support system, or at least a consistent one, I still encourage them to make time for self-care after the kids go to bed. Even if you're really tired, I just always encourage them to do something, even if it's just for 15, 20, 30 minutes after the kids go to bed, so that they can have a little time to themselves.
Yes, or look for those groups, those mommy groups.
Mhm.
I mean, like I said, it's COVID right now, so things are more difficult. But I know there are, some mommy groups that are still doing Zoom, or you have different, nowadays with technology, I mean, you just have numerous outlets to reach out to that can give those additional resources and supports. So I would say that those things are important. When you think about the aspect of um, being able to start to implement that time, I think maybe 3 years ago, a group of my girlfriends, we got together and we made a collective decision that we need time for each other.
Mhm.
So, and ourselves. So we said one day a month, same day, same time. So there's no confusion. And it's clear that we would get together. And so it started off as a book club, and we were reading books and laughing and joking, but then it became more than that. And so then it became something that we eventually looked forward to. Are there times that a babysitter is possible? Yes. Are there times that a babysitter isn't possible? Yes. And so it eventually grew more than just a book club, and it became like a sister circle,
Mhm.
and it became a commitment. So that is also an option that I think sometimes we may not always think about, because we feel internally, I often see that our troubles are our troubles, right?
Mhm.
And nobody else can relate to those troubles. But what would happen if you got on a Zoom call or went into a support group with a group of women, And everybody just started talking about the things that they went through as a new mom, or as a new mom with a 1 year old, and then you got a 7 year old. Just the things, the stressors of motherhood, it probably would sound very similar.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all go through similar, if not the same things in motherhood. So we're all
Yeah.
different people, but it's pretty much the same story. And you can laugh about it, you could cry about it, but if you have that support system, like that you're not alone.
And sometimes you need to do both, so
Yeah.
you can feel rejuvenated in order to come back and start that thing called motherhood all over again. We are going to take a quick break. Stick with us. After the break, we will discuss more around motherhood and mental health with Jessica. We are back. If you're just now joining us, you're listening to Fix Your Focus, Let's Chat Therapy with Siedah. Our guest today is Jessica Lattin. She is a licensed professional counselor and supervisor located in Shreveport, Louisiana. So prior to the break, some of the things that we are talking about today is the beginning stages of motherhood and how that impacts our mental health, and just certain components that go into that, and how you can start to create some different methods to support yourself as a mother during those stages of the pregnancy, as well as perinatal process. So one of the things that we kind of like touched on, Jessica, but we didn't probably go all the way into, was self-care and some of the different stressors that mothers deal with. But how difficult do you see it can be for mothers that you work with in regards to implementing self-care?
A lot of the moms that I work with, they really struggle with creating a self-care plan and a self-care routine. And it's a constant dialogue that I have to have with them, because their family is number one. But I have to constantly remind them, like, hey, you are not going to be any good to anybody else if you don't put yourself first. So like you mentioned earlier, you actually have to be intentional about scheduling time. And I know that may sound silly to people, to think I'm gonna schedule time with myself. They think that that's crazy, but it really, sometimes you just have to do that. If life really gets that busy, if you're working or if you just have a lot going on, you're going to have to make yourself a priority. So I definitely stress to moms, get your phone out, make an alarm or reminder on your phone, pencil it in on your calendar, but the key is sticking to it. So that's the hardest part, is sometimes they will make a plan to do it, but they don't actually follow through. And a lot of that comes from the mom guilt and the shame, or the low confidence, or just not feeling like that's really necessary, or feeling like sometimes we feel like we can just push through, and we disregard all of those signs that our body is telling us. When we're getting irritable, when we're feeling really, really fatigued, we ignore those signs and we just chalk it off as, I'm just tired. But it really could be more than just you're tired. It could be showing signs of depression and anxiety.
And then what's mom guilt, for those that don't know?
So mom guilt is basically feeling like you're not doing your best at the job of being a mother. And so, for example, I use myself as an example. I've experienced mom guilt plenty of times, especially because I'm a working mom. And so sometimes when I see stay-at-home moms, I feel bad, because it's like, oh man, I missed my child's first steps, and I missed all these different milestones for both of my children because they were in daycare while I was at work. So I wasn't really able to be there when they learned these different things, like different words they learned, or all of these special moments. And so you have guilt from that as well. And then also how much you can provide for your kids. I know a lot of moms have a lot of guilt and shame regarding financial things, and or maybe the father is not in the child's life. They're not with that person anymore. There could be so many factors that contribute to mom guilt.
Do you think that at certain junctures of life that mom guilt is somewhat normal?
I definitely think it's normal. I think the mom that we think has it all going on Instagram, because we see her, she only posts what she wants us to see. She has
Yes.
mom guilt.
Yes.
Like everybody has mom guilt, and I don't care who they are. At some point throughout that journey, you're going to have guilt some kind of way regarding whatever issue. Even now, with kids going back to school, my son goes back to school next week. He can't be homeschooled by me or my husband, so he has to go back to school. There's some mom guilt there. And a lot of it is from social media, because we see other people, trying to shame other parents for the decisions that they make. But I have to tell the moms that I work with, and I have to tell this to myself continuously, because there's always going to be that self-doubt in the back of your head.
Yes.
You have to tell yourself, do what's best for you and your family, and focus on you, because comparison is just going is I can't remember what that saying is. Comparison is the thief of joy. And so you're not going to fully be present and happy in your journey as a mother if you're constantly comparing yourself to this mom or that mom, or worrying about all of the what ifs.
Yeah, there is no book, right, for this thing called parenting. And as you learn and you walk through the journey, you get different things, you hear different pieces of wisdom, you pull from different relationships, you pull from the relationship you had with your parents, had or didn't have, and all of those things go into it. I've seen with mom guilt how that can play out later,
Mm-hmm.
because you push harder and you require more. You constantly have to do your own self check as a mother, because how hard are you pushing, because you have a little bit of mom guilt for what you want to be able to accomplish for your children. And that's another piece. That piece, part of that piece, I can say has been my piece over the years, just because I had my son when I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
And, that wasn't what was expected nor required within my family. And so that level, of mom guilt was there, because it's like, I got to give this little boy everything possible. But when you become a parent, God doesn't tell you what kid you get.
Yeah.
Right? Because they have their own personality, and you kind of got to roll with that personality. And it's a layer. And like you said, knowing that you're doing the very best that you can, knowing that if you're working and you're creating something, especially for all of the mompreneurs, right? You're working and you're creating something and you're trying to generate a lifestyle for your children. How does that affect you? Because you do miss those milestones.
Exactly.
Or on the flip side, if you're at home, but you decide you want to go back to work, how does that affect you? Because you know what it's like to be able to spend all of this extra time with your child that maybe some moms can't do.
Exactly. And even I have some moms that feel guilty about going out with their friends or enjoying me time. And I'm like, well, you were an individual before you had this child. eventually your child is going to become a teenager. They're not going to want to do anything with you. They're going to be like, Mom, I'm going out with my friends. And so you're going to be sitting there looking crazy. Like, what am I supposed to do? Twiddling your thumbs. What am I supposed to do? So you don't have to feel bad about going out and enjoying yourself. I know there are some things we can't do like we used to do before we had kids, but that doesn't stop you from going out with the girls or whatever some nights. So I always try to encourage my moms, you don't have to feel bad about having fun. You don't have to feel bad about enjoying your friend's company or going on a date with your significant other or your husband.
Yes.
That's how this child was created. You need to make sure that you are still maintaining that social support around you, whether it's with your significant other, whether it's with your friends. Those are the people that you're going to need. It literally does take a village, and you're pushing your village away when you let that guilt overtake you.
Yeah, and you can't pour from an empty glass.
Exactly. Yeah.
So sometimes you need to rejuvenate, fill yourself back up as a parent, because they want to see vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
How with So based off of the climate that we're currently in right now, just with everything happening and all the major stressors that we are dealing with, um, what would you say to those moms of color who are fearful of raising children right now?
Yeah, well, definitely your feelings are valid. I have the same concerns because I have a 6-year-old son. And even though he's 6, I still talk to him about what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. But, sometimes when we talk to our kids about the do's and don'ts, it seems like at this point it doesn't really matter. You could do everything right. So I try to encourage, and I want to encourage the moms who are listening and even the dads who may be listening. Focus on the here and now and what you can control within your family, because we can't control the outcomes of what's out there in the world. We can't control another person's actions or reactions based on our color of our skin. So you just have to focus on the here and now and encourage your children to still carry themselves like royalty and still carry themselves in a way that they have confidence and they believe in themselves regardless of what the world may think or what the world may try to get them to believe about themselves and our people. So that's really what you just have to raise your family accordingly and pray. That's what I have to do every day is pray. And if that's your thing, I encourage you to just pray and give it over to God and not let the stress eat you away and keep you from enjoying motherhood.
Yeah. Right now, with the way COVID is happening, one of the things that has been discussed and that has been a concern really since it began was domestic violence. And I know that's also one of your passions, and one of your areas of specialty within the practice. How have you seen a rise or influx within that, especially for your mothers, whether they're pregnant or if it's their first child, or if it's numerous children? How have you seen it, and how have you been able to work with those moms?
Yes, well, actually, I actually have a contract with a local domestic violence shelter and outreach center here in Shreveport. So they are my biggest referral resource out here. And so they've definitely had an influx of cases coming in due to the isolation that occurs from having to quarantine for the last 6 months or so. It definitely puts moms who are pregnant at a high risk, moms who may already have some high risk medical issues or disabilities where they're kind of immobile. So there's definitely been an influx of those types of cases, and really the number one thing is safety is first. And so with every single mom that I come into contact with, we work on a safety plan, and what they can do in certain situations, who they can call on. Do they have paperwork and other necessities in another area? So the safety plan is the number one thing, and that's what we really have to address in the beginning. And then hopefully with time, because sometimes you can't convince a victim to leave their partner or whoever. So you just have to be patient and just be a positive support system for them and encourage them and uplift them. And hopefully they will make that decision for themselves. But most importantly is the safety plan. So if you know somebody who is dealing with that, or if you're going through it yourself, I definitely suggest that you contact your local shelter for them, and an advocate will help you with a safety plan.
All right. So we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after the break. Stick with us. You are listening to Fix Your Focus, Let's Chat Therapy with Siedah. Thank you for joining us. If you're just tuning in, we are talking to Jessica Lattin, a licensed professional counselor supervisor from Shreveport, Louisiana. She's the owner of her own private practice, JL Counseling LLC, which is a solo private practice, and her focus is maternal mental health and domestic violence. So some of the things that we have been talking about prior to the break was the importance of self-care with the job of being a mother, as well as some of the common factors that are typically seen as barriers from moms coming to therapy, such as time or money, or do I really need this? Because I can read a book or have discussion. And then we've also talked about the modes of self-care that a mother can do. And so we will revisit those because that definitely is an important subject. Then we also talked about mom guilt, right? And so how mom guilt plays into some of the factors that keep us from going out and enjoying ourselves, or just scheduling time to have silence. All different things. So, Jessica, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was if a mother is looking for additional support or more education around maternal health, what are some avenues to where she can go to either be engaged with other mothers or just start to learn about what is happening within her own body?
Okay, yes. So there are two organizations that I'm affiliated with. So the first one is 2020 Mom. You can follow their social media handles, 2020 Mom, and then you can also visit their website, 2020mom.org. And they lobby for maternal mental health in the government, and they also bridge the gap between medical providers and consumers to help raise awareness on maternal mental health issues and proper screening and all of those things. Also, Postpartum Support International is a very well-known organization. They are international. We just had a huge conference in July where I learned so much more about maternal mental health and perinatal mental illness. Well, if you need to know about the different symptoms, signs, you can go to their website. They cover all of the perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, from postpartum depression all the way to postpartum psychosis. So you can find a great deal of information, resources, books. They also have support groups for moms of color, for military moms, even for dads. They have a Hispanic group as well for non-English speaking So they have a variety of support groups for everybody, and they're all virtual. So they're all online. And so you can connect with women all across the globe, essentially, if you log into those. They have the schedule and everything. You can also get in touch with, they have some postpartum support coordinators, and I'm actually one for Northern Louisiana. So what I do is when someone clicks on Louisiana, they look for their area that they live in, the state. And so if they live in Northern Louisiana, the call comes to me, and I help them to find resources where they live. There's a lack of resources all over the country, so sometimes it's very hard to find them someone. But several states have these postpartum support coordinators through PSI. So if you're interested in being one, you can sign up. Or if you need information on resources near you, you can go on the website and find who your support coordinator is, and they can locate resources for you.
And just in case you have a mother or a dad or a family member who is just joining the show and they may not know what the signs are, what are the signs? Just, I know we briefly touched on them before, but what are the signs?
Yeah, okay. So signs to most perinatal mood and anxiety disorders include excessive fatigue and sleep disturbance, nightmares, lack of appetite or overeating, irritability and angry outbursts, just kind of not their usual self. Now, of course, we change after we have a baby. There's a period within the first 2 weeks after having a baby that's called the baby blues. But if it extends longer than 2 weeks, it could be something more serious like postpartum depression. You have to make sure that your daughter or wife or whoever is getting enough sleep, because that can definitely contribute to postpartum psychosis. If you notice that they are hallucinating or delusional or have thoughts of hurting themselves or hurting their child, if they have paranoia about other people hurting their child, those are all signs of some sort of perinatal mood and anxiety disorder.
And what do you do if you have the mom who is resistant, may not tell their doctor when they go back for their checkup everything that is going on with them, or is resistant because I got to get back to work because I am the primary caregiver. What do you say to that mother who sits in that space?
Yeah, and I think that's a concern that a lot of us have. A lot rides on us as moms. And if something happens to us, what happens to our child? But you have to think, would you rather get the help you need now um, than wait and let this ride out, and it may or may not work itself out, but you're worse off for your child, and you end up affecting your child in a more traumatic way. So I would just encourage moms to, you're not alone. You can get help. The hardest part is just making that phone call, reaching out, sending that message to that counselor or whoever. That's the hardest part. After that, you're going to have a support system. You'll have at least one person that can help you and kind of walk you through this process. And it is difficult, but with time, that's what Postpartum International says. They say with time, you will be well. And so just keep that in mind, that you're looking towards being a better mother, and being a better person overall, and helping to be an example for your child to put yourself first.
Yeah, one of the things you said earlier was make yourself a priority.
Mm-hmm.
You can only sit on the back burner for so long, and sometimes those things are deeper rooted from other things, right? Prior to being a mother, because before a mother, you are a woman.
Yes.
And so what comes from that woman into that mother, and then how do our children trigger us and the things that we may have not worked through before we became mothers. Um, So, Jessica, I thank you so much for joining us talking about this. I mean, mental health is such a rich topic. It's a million different components you can touch on. You can open one box and then you can have 50 other boxes inside of that one box. That's probably why most of us love it.
Yeah.
So you can just keep digging and digging until you get to the root of, success or continued growth. If people want to find you, how do they find you?
You can reach me at jlcounselingllc.com. That's my website. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram at JL Counseling LLC. Those are the handles for both of those. And so that's the best way to reach me or to see, information about my podcast. I also do monthly Facebook Lives with another colleague of mine, Brittany Ball of Serenity Counseling. So just follow me, and I promise you will be informed and educated on all things mental health and maternal mental health and domestic violence.
And tell just again for the name of the podcast. Tell the audience the name so they can subscribe as well.
Yes, I have a podcast, The Counselor's Complex. It's on all podcast platforms right now, and I'm preparing for season 3 coming up sometime in the fall. So just stay tuned. But I have plenty of episodes that you guys can catch up on. So.
That's right. Get plenty of episodes to catch up on. So I thank you so much again for joining us and talking to us about all of the important aspects of, motherhood and all the, the beginning stages, really. One of the things to take away, hopefully, that we heard is making yourself a priority. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the show with Siedah.